Martha in a Mary world. I find it to be the absolute opposite for myself. I'm a Mary in a Martha world. But this particular passage is such a delight to me, but also at times I find it very troubling and frustrating, and I know that I am not alone in feeling that way. I know I'm not alone. Now, a little bit of background for you, and I don't know if you've noticed this now that we are in Luke's Gospel and we've been going through it week by week. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of, best way to put it, pairings. And what I mean by that, if you have one story, for instance, you have the story of John the Baptist's birth. An angel speaks to John the Baptist's father, and then a baby comes. Oh, wait, look, we got another one. An angel speaks to Jesus' mother, and Jesus comes. And you have these little pairs, and people in pairs. So you've got Mary and Elizabeth. You've got when Jesus goes to the temple to be circumcised. You've got Simeon and Anna there at the temple. And you'll see it over and over again. There are pairs. So the next time you are reading through the Gospel of Luke, which I know that you do daily, maybe even hourly when I'm not around, but you'll find that. You will find that there are pairings in it, and it's worth paying attention to. Obviously, it is intentional on Luke's part. Now, Mary and Martha themselves are pretty important. And I don't know if anybody remembers this as well. Who's their sibling? Is Lazarus. Lazarus, who is raised from the dead, and that is one of the signs of Jesus', well, just who Jesus is. Now that, of course, was in John's Gospel, so we're in Luke right now. But it's worth paying attention to Mary and Martha. Mary and Martha of Bethany, they are known to have supported Jesus' ministry. And by support, it's exactly what you would think it is. By supporting, they are helping to pay for Jesus' ministry. Yes, that's what they mean by support. Martha is one that is marked by her hard and tireless work. She is a hard worker. She is the worker bee. She is the person that you want on Altar Guild. She is the person you want leading any committee. You want her on your board because she will do all of the work. She's great. And you know what? You want to give her more things because she's busy. Because she'll get it done. Mary, on the other hand, Mary will drive you crazy. I bet she's fun at parties. But it's meant as a sharp contrast, isn't it? That is intentional. So it's fun to pay attention to that. But in today's gospel, you think that we're stepping into, is this a great, one of those teachings of Jesus? We have to be careful there. Because there's often that impulse to want to say, you see, look what Jesus is saying. He's saying that Martha is wrong. Mary is right. Therefore, let's all quit our jobs today. We are heading to the beach. Get your blanket, let's go. It's not exactly what he's saying. That's not exactly what's going on. And there is an impulse, though, I think, within our culture to either want to go one extreme or the other. That you either have to be one way's right, or the other way is wrong, or vice versa. When in fact, you really need both. We see this individual, Martha, who is a hard worker, and we see this same trait. And I see this trait in many and many of you. That many of you are naturally hard workers. And you have been, I think, your whole entire lives, if you're totally honest. And that is why you have been as successful as you are. But I think even within the church, there are many of us who are very hard workers. And we want to do good. But there can be a danger in that too. Is working so hard to a point of burnout. And that's a terrible place to be. Because rather than working for the glory joy, but rather exhaustion. We see this often, though, in those people who are caretakers, who they can get to that point of utter breakdown. And the contrast, of course, is someone like Mary, who's like, the first thing she's doing, she's like kicking off her shoes and flinging down to Jesus' feet to hear what he's saying. And we can hear the frustration in Martha. Or at least I am projecting my frustration because I hear what you're saying, Martha. Now, Jesus' reply, it's not a condemnation of her. Notice that. It's not saying, wrong! You're totally wrong! That's it for you, kid. Done! The kingdom of heaven's no longer yours, Martha. You're out. Mary's in. Did you see that? There is nothing in commentaries about that. There is no section. There is not anything excised that has that part in it. But there's a reminder of first things first. And perhaps, I think the one thing that is missing, and there's probably the next sentence at the end of the gospel where Jesus says, Martha, why don't you come and sit down with us for a few minutes? That's the only thing that's missing, and I'm really annoyed with any editor who might have cut that section out. I know it's there somewhere. We will find it in the Dead Sea Scrolls, I'm sure of it. But it's a reminder of the first things first. Those of us who tend to be a little more duty-bound, a little bit more worker bees, you didn't get there because you automatically are all about work. It started because of the devotion and love. And it's important for those of us who work to stop and sit at the feet and return to that time of devotion and love and prayer. To put the first things first. To remember that. To not allow us to lose our focus, if you will, to lose the forest for the trees. There is need for both, and that's worth paying attention to. Once again, going back to Luke's gospel, where we see again and again the pairing. Martha and Mary are always together. It's almost, honestly, it's probably one person. Now, there probably was a Martha and a Mary, but for him, in this idea, you need both. You need to have that time that sits and reflects and remembers the love and the devotion. And if you will, can even sit and receive love and devotion from her Lord. And we need those who from that are inspired to get up and work. You must have both. You almost cannot have one without the other. One will lead itself to, well, sometimes I hate to say it, utter sloth. And one can go straight to burnout. They need each other. And a reminder always to put the first things first. But like I say, I just imagine the one thing that is cut from this gospel, I believe, is that next line. Where Jesus says, Martha, come sit down with us for a little bit. And that next thing, where it explains what happens, all three get up and go in the kitchen